Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Bruce Baker back joining us, and we are talking, of course, about workplaces. He is the chief business builder and owner of the company, helping people from all over, hailing from Alberta, Canada. But really, Business Builders is all about helping business owners out there listen up to cut down on the complexity, boost your profitability, and find more freedom in your day-to-day operations. Welcome back. How are you doing today, Bruce?
Not bad, Jill. How about you? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. You know, the past few weeks, we've had some great conversations. I'm learning all about you and all the businesses and people you've helped along the way and continue to do so. So give us a little overview as to, the work that you're doing there with 4 workplaces, please.
Absolutely, but Jill. So what we do is we help businesses all over, not just in Canada, but all over the world in terms of, well, 3 major points. One is we help them scale growing in the business. The other, we help them start up. And then the third component is getting businesses out of trouble, making sure they get back on track again.
Beautiful. And I know with your world of success and all the clients, I've heard many positive, testimonials. We've talked for the past 2 weeks, and you've given very detailed examples of the work you do, how it's done. We'll get into that too later, how you could take your own quiz and get started. But let's jump right into today's show and maybe talk to our listeners here about the telltale signs that maybe, that a business owner is pursuing someone else's version of success rather than their own.
Yeah, well, this is something that we see every day, and we work with people, not just for startups, but for those folks that are trying to grow their business, scale their business. So and even not just scaling your business, but getting out of trouble as well. So what I want to explore today is the critical first step for any business owner: deciding what they truly want. Whether, again, like I said, whether you're starting up, navigating growth, or steering out of trouble, each phase as you go through that demands decisive action. So in our fast-paced world, the pressure to move quickly can lead to replicating, as you said, other people's paths. So, if Jill does it or Bruce does it, then hey, that's a great idea. Let me just do the same thing.
Yeah.
So we do that, and we tend to rush those decisions. So what I want to talk to you about this morning and share with the folks that are listening is the 4E method, where we talk about 4 major E's: emotional investment, expectation setting, energizing self, and execution. What this method does is that it helps people ensure their decisions are not only swift, but also aligned with their unique vision, creating momentum and sustainable success. So I want to dive in a little bit with that model this morning, if that's okay.
Bring it on. Go for it, babe. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. So, what is the 4E method of results? So, it's a practical and a very powerful system that we've used for years that really gets the results. It's designed for entrepreneurs, founders, and business leaders, that creates clarity for them, builds momentum in terms of what they want to achieve, and most importantly, for any entrepreneur, for any business owner, driving results, not just one time, but sustainable results without mimicking someone else's version of what that success looks like. So again, whether you're launching, scaling, or pivoting, this 4-part method actually ensures every step you take is aligned with your personal vision. It's grounded in reality, which is what's so critical, and energized with that conviction behind it. So what I want to do, Jill, is just explain each E for everybody, and at a glance, and go from there. So first, emotional investment. The first is ask yourself the question: what do I deeply care about? What do I really want to see? How does that make me feel? I want people to tap into the purpose behind their goals.
Yeah.
This emotional truth becomes what I'm sure you've heard about it, I'm sure other people have heard about it, is your North Star, right? So that's the first E, emotional investment. Now, we all know that, whether it's a course, a book, or whatever inspires us, makes us excited about starting up a new business, new venture, growing our business, that emotional feel, that high, tends to disappear over time. So I want people to keep that going. But how do we keep that going? So let's say we start with emotional investment. We then move to the second E, and the second E is called expectation setting. right?
Yeah.
The question to ask yourself is, what will this truly require of me? Define success realistically. Don't just get caught up in the vision or the excitement.
Yeah.
You identify potential sacrifices as well, because frankly, when it comes to business, we all know it's not all just about positive bed of roses. There are a lot of things that can throw you a curveball and you're blindsided. So I want people to really understand the expectations they have of themselves and what the environment is going to demand of them. Now, with that emotional investment, the high that you had in the beginning, now setting those expectations. Now I want you to energize yourself, but energize yourself based in reality, right? Am I internally fueled or am I just excited? If you're internally fueled, you understand what the expectations are. You're also grounded in motivation, right? That beats that temporary hype. You know that you're capable of doing this because you understand what's in front of you. Revisit your vision, and then you stay charged, focused. What does that do? Well, that brings us to the final E. That's the execution. Do I feel ready? Because I'm prepared. I know what I'm up against, good, bad, or ugly. I move with purpose, not pressure. And that's the big deal over there. And then I take action with clarity and resilience. And one of the key components of your, Jill, is that when people do this, they see the results. And when human beings see results, whether it's failure or whether it's success, at the end of the day, something comes out of it. And that's what keeps us going. Those are
Beautiful.
really the four E's at a glance.
I love it. The four E's. And Bruce, I don't know if you shut your camera off or did we lose you? Do you want to put it back on?
Oh, that's terrible.
It's
Oh,
okay.
got to see this funny face. There you go.
No, but sometimes people don't want their camera on. So I'm thinking maybe he changed his mind, just want to do an audio show. Now I don't see you at all. We
Oh
started on
no.
there.
Yeah, it might be a problem, technical problem on my end, Jill. My apologies.
That's okay. We can continue the show going. It's not a problem.
Awesome.
Perfect. So we were talking about the four E's, and let's see, where are we now? There's still so much. And what if I
Yeah,
told you now oh my gosh, now my thing is frozen here. I'm trying to read our chat. Could you just help me out because it's not scrolling for me? Um,
absolutely. Well, while you're looking there, I probably want to just say, what people may be asking why this works, why this model works. When you use the 4E method, you want to think about using it before a major decision or when you want to pivot, right? You're also going to find that motivation tends to start to dip. Once you see that happening, it's time to get it back up again. So after achieving a win, planning what's next, and to reassess direction in a fast changing landscape, right? It works extremely well because what we typically do is that fleeting tactics or trends. The 4E method in principle is driven that way, right? Its purpose is principally driven. It doesn't just help you make better decisions, it teaches you how to trust your own vision every step of the way. So if you want to use your decisions to reflect, not just speed, but use that soul, use that intention, this 4E method is pretty potent and we see a lot of results coming from it.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Yeah. How's the technical components on your side?
Good. Well, how can entrepreneur realize their initial excitement has faded with the first steps they should to reignite and spark? Getting it back. It's going slow. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Jill, I don't know if you saw the questions over there.
Yes.
Yeah,
The biggest
so I think these are
obstacle.
so there are a couple of questions that people ask me on a regular basis. So maybe we can go through that and just give people some reality.
Is that what's the biggest obstacle you've observed? Do we start there?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. So, what is the biggest obstacle that you have observed, if you don't mind me asking? And when it comes to, let's say, expectation setting, and how do you recommend overcoming that?
Yeah, so the by far the largest obstacle is when people are get very excited or people are, like I say, fall in love with the dream and they pursue everything is driven from this and then they come to that second E, which is that expectation setting, and we tend to fall in love with vision but fall out of love with action.
Yeah.
And what happens then is that when people are surprised at this, like I said earlier on, it's that curveball. that people are not expecting. And what happens is that we tend to veer away from from the commitment because, well, I don't really want to sacrifice this. I don't really want to have less time with this. And then the big question starts coming up is, I don't know if I've got time for this. But
Yeah.
really what we're trying to say, and what we are saying, is that I don't know if I'm capable of doing this. And then as soon as that question hits, we tend to lose momentum. We tend to fall within ourselves. We're not looking for external assistance or support, and we're just not confident in pursuing it. And that is, when the typical New Year's resolution mentality comes into it. How many New Year's resolutions do people actually stick to? It's the same mental process in many respects, is that we lose that momentum. And that's not what we want to do, because if we don't execute in our business, we really don't see results, and that vicious cycle starts to occur.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for sharing that. And also, if you don't mind me moving on to talk a little bit about, why do you think business owners really kind of hesitate when it comes to completely being honest about the sacrifice required that goes into reaching all these goals?
Yeah, well, the a lot of people will talk about the exciting components of business. Again, be it startup, scale up, or getting out of trouble, which is definitely not exciting. But the thought of doing those things or achieving those things tend to dissipate pretty quickly. So again, like I said earlier on, the reason why they dissipate is because now I have to spend an additional 15, 20 hours a week in being able to achieve this. But I didn't necessarily think that it would mean this for my life. It would mean this for the reality in my business. So what happens is that that sacrifice is too high. The commitment is also something that people don't want to follow, because they feel that, well, if I fail, what is that going to mean? Right?
Yeah.
What are other people going to think of me and my business? If I fail, very importantly, and probably one of the most potent responses or narratives people have in their heads, is that if I fail, how am I going to judge me? Right? Not
Yeah.
just what other people think of me, is I am not going to, it's too painful. I don't want to deal with that just in case I fail. And that kind of narrative or self-talk is essentially what makes businesses fail, or at least failing in terms of a decision that they've made
Yeah.
and the execution and results they want to see.
Got it. Well, thank you for that. And if you are just tuning in, I just want to remind everyone we are talking to our friend Bruce Baker here from Chief Builder Build. He's our Chief Business Builder from Workplaces. That's for Workplaces, and we're excited that he's here today again, giving us guidance and talking more, about how he's helping you and can help you if you are listening as a business owner. And it's just kind of like when you energize the self in a sense, how can people really distinguish between, genuine confidence and maybe more excitement?
Yeah. So one thing's for sure is that the most powerful uh, energy comes from the beginning, and that we're talking about those four E's. It comes from that uh, place where, man, this vision in my head looks fantastic. The person that's telling me all about this, the book that I'm reading, the course that I'm taking, it's really, really powerful. And but people need to know that that only lasts for a few days, or sometimes even a few hours. When you realize, and you do yourself, frankly, you do yourself a favor, and like a lot of people would say, you know what, burst my bubble. Sometimes it's good to burst your bubble. And bursting the bubble actually, it reminds me of the movie with Keanu Reeves with Matrix, right? Once you burst that bubble and you pull the plug out and you realize this is reality, and reality is far more exciting, because once I understand those expectations, then that excitement or that high level energy turns into something that's more practical. So now I can not just use that energy to get excited, which doesn't last very long. I use that energy in a more purposeful, intentional way that now gives me control and creates that execution I'm looking for.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And what about the role, would you say that, self-belief really plays an actual, execution? And how can a business owner strengthen that belief over time?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question, Jill. There's a lot of research out there that talks about, people are motivated very much through they're seeing that there is progress, that there's momentum. But what people are very motivated with is, I believe that I am capable, or I have the ability to actually achieve something. And when we look at the research, when we look at not just the research, we look at our own experiences day in and day out with business owners and CEOs and their leadership teams, is that the resistance or the hesitation on moving forward with something, for the most part, is based on our ability or my ability to be able to move forward. And that's the killer of execution ultimately.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And what about, maybe you can walk us through a scenario where a business owner systematically applied this 4E method and how that really
Yeah.
has led to sustainable results?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm thinking of a business that manufacture. Uh, they were launching a new product line, so they started clarifying the emotional investment. And what happened over there was the excitement, of course. Man, this is going to take us to the next level. This is truly going to take our brand to the next level. They truly believed not just the market impact, other people, the market getting excited by it, but they moved further than that. They then nailed their expectations, and the expectations that we talk about, that's that second E, is budget, things like timeline, potential obstacles. So I'm sure people have heard and have used this tool many times over, is your SWOT analysis, right? So strength, weakness, opportunities, and strengths. Now, they used it at that time, but really what they wanted was, okay, folks, now that we're excited with the impact that we're going to make with this new product line, let's really see what the reality is. As they got through that, they built their plan through that. But what was really cool about it was they came back to that exact same reality that they pulled together, and also the original excitement that energized them in the first place. So what they did was, in this case, is that they re-energized themselves, revisited what excited them in the first place, but they re-energized themselves based on those facts, on the reality. So in this case, still energized, still focused, but more realistically, right? So the other thing that they did as well was regularly checking in, right? Keeping motivated, because remember, we need to keep ourselves over short bursts. We need to continue to drive ourselves. One way to absolutely do that is to see results over the short term, right?
Yeah.
So checking in, getting those results at times, and in this case, not all of it was successful. We had some bumps along the way, but they used those bumps to learn and to become more confident. And guess what? The product took off, and they're probably about 8 months into it, and it's really gaining momentum primarily because of the 4E method.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And how would you advise business owners, as far as to maintain, keep going that momentum in a sense once they've achieved some initial wins with the 4E method?
Yeah, absolutely. So, after a win, it's tempting to relax and drift, right? I say to people, when you win or when you lose, revisit what made you win, because you can reinforce that and repeat that. But also look at what made you fail. And failing is not a negative word. Learn what you can from it. So in this case, instead, revisit your emotional investment, right? Has it shifted? Update your expectation settings based on new insight and new goals. Then re-energize yourself around the next milestone, right? Execution then remains consistent, and that's the name of the game, because you're proactively redefining your motivation. It's a virtuous cycle if you keep revisiting each E as you work through it.
Perfect. And, what would you say is the most common misstep that you see with a lot of your entrepreneurs who really try to move fast? And how does the 4E method really provide a safeguard in a sense?
Yeah, they set very vague goals regularly, or they buy into the hype, right? And when I say hype, it's not to disparage people's motivation or disparage other people that are trying to motivate others. That's all critical, and that forms part of the first E. So, but we've got to be careful, because once we buy into too much of that hype, we crash when reality
Yeah.
hits. With the 4E method, you can't bypass your own emotional truth or
Mm-hmm.
ignore resources and risks, right? Because you walk through each step yeah, I can't even say it now,
That's okay.
methodically, right? That emotional spark, that realistic expectations, you propel self-energizing, and then you execute. But you only execute based on what comes before. So you can see the 4E method as very much as a pyramid, right? Where the very first E serves as the foundation. The final E, the fourth E, is all about execution and results. You're not going to get that if you don't have the first E. So you guard against blind spots that happen when you're rushing, right? And this takes you through it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And now, with this fast-paced world we're living in, how could you give some advice about how entrepreneurs can really balance these, swift decision making, with the depth of reflection really that's needed for like this long-term success?
Yeah, you remind me of a client I met yesterday, and a very similar question came up, and it comes down to building in strategic pauses. Now, what do I mean by that? You don't need to overanalyze every single decision, analysis through paralysis. But for the big ones, take a moment to run through the 4 E's. Ask yourself this: am I emotionally invested?
Mm-hmm.
Are my expectations clear?
Yeah.
Do I have the energy and confidence to follow through?
Yeah.
If you're saying yes to each one of those, this reflection, it takes not even 2 minutes, right? But it can protect you from months of misdirection.
Got it. Well, in our last, we only have 2 minutes left. I know we got a little bit of a late start here today, but how did you want to kind of end off with everyone?
Yeah, absolutely, Joel. As I've said this in previous recordings, episodes that we've done, it's about believing in yourself. And lots of people will say, yeah, believe in yourself, believe in your vision, believe in your goal. But I'm moving away from, let's call it the fluff, for lack of a better term, but truly believing in yourself.
Can.
Right, yeah, truly believing in yourself. But I want people to focus on your ability. And when you ask a question saying, well, I can't do that, I'm not qualified to do that,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you abandon your decision or you abandon your business. What that means
It's
is that, as a leader, who do I need to surround myself with to help me achieve that objective? You're not by yourself in doing this. You certainly shouldn't be. But your ability to not just do the task, but your ability to actually find people, surround yourself with people that can help you execute those results is what it's all about, not just about you.
perfect. Thank you so much for today. How do we reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, website, obviously, the first place to go, www.4workplaces, so the number 4workplaces.com, or feel free to give me a call directly at 780-850-6957.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Pleasure getting to talk to you today, as always, and looking forward to the next time we get to connect and enjoy the rest of your week. Sound like a plan? We'll talk then.
Thanks, Jill. Thank you. And hopefully we can get video up and running next time
I
around.
know it's okay, right? It happens. Don't worry. But pleasure
There
getting
you
to
go.
speak with you. Thank you, Bruce. Bye bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.